Adventures of Superman, The Book of El, Issue 2, Philip Kennedy Johnson, writing with Scott Godlewski on the art. So, sorry to spoil things, Matt, but in the last issue,
you're fine.
Superman got beamed to the future, like thousands of years into the future, and it's kind of obvious that he's just kind of where Smallville used to stand, even though everyone's got a different name now. And he's ran into, is it Ronan Kent? And he hears that name like in the middle of this fight with these summer men who are like the enforcers for the status quo in the future. But he's like Ronan Kent, and Ronan later talks about his sister Rowan and the cousin Brandon Kent, which obviously some of this stuff was obviously teased way back when. But Superman wants to get back to his own timeline, and once Ronan like really realizes like, oh wait, you're really him, you're Superman, like you can't just go back. I mean, we have to, like, you have to do stuff here. But Superman's like, I need to go to the fortress because there's something in there that can let me get back to my own time. There's devices in the fortress that I can use. But there's some really nice stuff here, because basically the reason why Superman gets into this fight with the summer men is because there's a being walking around that is a Green Lantern construct, like a being just on his own that's a construct, who is basically being like basically profiled, I guess. Like, Ronan was trying to defend him, and Superman steps in and blocks all these powers, and there's a great big full page spread where he sort of like knocks them off all back after he's been shielding the young alien with the cape. And the Book of El kind of like the snippets come in and say it's always been tough to gauge Superman's powers levels, because every time we think we know what the limits are, when he's pushed to push his limits to save someone, he always ends up doing it. So it feels only limited by the people that are in need, which I thought was a nice line. But we see that there's a Luthor in charge of what was this called? The Capital Thief Tropolis Kine East Merlantis sect. So all the place names are all kind of wild, and you can sort of see how they're formed out of the old words. The big reveal, though, is that this Luthor that's on TV giving a speech to the people isn't really a Luthor. Once the speech is over and it's all, yes, like rat out your neighbors to keep everyone safe, it's very kind of keeping the peace, but like it's the good guy message, but kind of villainous as well. It's actually a robot that completely breaks apart, that's been puppeted by a big brainiac looking robot, who's like, hey, the best way to like rule over people and keep that power is not through fear or intimidation, it's by making them comfortable and complacent. So that's what he does. And because there was a Luthor in charge of Earth for so long, we're going to keep having Luthors so that everyone remains. Yeah, and you go.
I love that in this future, there's a Brainiac puppeting a Luthor.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect.
Yeah, and Jack Sewer is kind of in charge of the Brainiac. Jack Sewer put the Brainiac in charge of Earth because he knew that Earth had to be watched, because one day the Superman who disappeared all those like thousands of years ago might one day return, and they believe that he's popped back up because there's stories of this incident spreading now. So he's like, hey, go find that Superman. If it's really him, make sure you bring him to me. But Superman and Ronan fight at the fortress. It looks a little bit beat up, and Ronan's like, hey, I don't really come here as often as I should. It's a whole thing. And they go into like a dome inside the fortress, which is basically the Kent farm's been put in here. The building's been placed here, and it's almost like they're standing outside, but the dome is like just like a screen showing the sky. And it's like, yeah, the Kent family put it here after your disappearance. But the issue builds up to like, hey, before you go, you should at least speak to the old man. And it's like, wait, who's the old man? And Superman's led to another place in the fortress where this old man with a long beard is sitting writing something in presumably the Book of El, right, which is what the whole thing's about. And he's like, it's not a tease who this is, And like Ronan like says to him like, hey, remember like you said you'd say something to Superman if you ever had a chance, if you ever saw him again, if he ever came back. Do you remember what you wanted to say? And then he turns around and sees Superman standing there, and Superman says, do we know each other? And then the old man gets helped up by Ronan, and he says, Mr. Kent? And then you see on his wrist he's wearing the Superman watch. This is somehow old man Jimmy Olsen, which Superman, the very first thing he says is, how are you still alive? It's been 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So there'll be an explanation for that, I'm sure. But he's an old man with a grey beard, and he's like, I've spent 1,000 years looking for you. And Superman's like, I'll be going back, Jimmy, don't worry, I'll be going back, I'll be with the family again, and it'll be like I never left. And Jimmy's like, not yet, there are things you need to know first. And then the tease, it wasn't just you who disappeared, you have to find, and then they get interrupted because the Brainiac and his summer men show up crashing into the place. So it's implying that someone else other than Superman got pulled forward into the future. So who is that? He never got to finish his sentence. Maybe we'll find out next issue. Is it Supergirl because she's the other Kryptonian? Is it his son? Is it someone who isn't even superpowered? Is it just someone loosely related to Superman? Is it another hero entirely? Who knows? But that's maybe it's John Stewart, since War Journal was a part of this whole saga. Who knows? Possible.
Yeah, because the walking around construct definitely is of that era of War Journal, right? Like that's where that came from.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Something similar. So
and there is back matter in these books as well. Both issues have had some of the pages of the Book of L at the back, and it's like stuff about Brandon Kent, who you know, I just kind of skimmed this because I couldn't really be bothered reading it all. But he does talk about how like the Summer Men are actually like resistance fighters, or people who were like on Superman's side, who were like basically just brainwashed and turned into these foot soldiers for the villains. So yeah, it's a whole, what is Luthor's personal project. Whatever's happening, there's no way he doesn't know. So it doesn't seem like he, at least first up, like I think in the second part he's figured out that Luthor isn't working for Brainiac. He is Brainiac, so he's figured that out in the second entry here. But it's basically just stuff that's sort of like backing up some of the things in the main story and like fleshing it out a little bit. So if you want to read that, it's there. But yeah, you get 2 pages of just solid text talking about some world building if you want it. Yeah, I mean, this issue was pretty solid. I mean, the first issue was mostly set in the present day with Superman bonding with his family. And I was kind of like, you know, slightly concerned that once we get to this story of him in the future, is this going to be as compelling because he's away from everyone? But I think what helps it here is that this arc, this big run that Johnson's had since the start, it started with teasing like the family line in the future. So clearly we have to get to that in some way. So it makes sense we're doing a future story. And then, you know, I have to admit, him bonding with his like descendant is quite good. Him obviously being Superman and bringing hope to people, and like everyone's like, hey, we can't have anyone feeling hope, we have to stop this, is compelling and gives us more chance for Superman to inspire people and all the rest of it. So and then the tease, of course, of someone else being brought forward is interesting. So I'm curious to see who that is going to turn out to be. But yeah, I'd say it was probably on par with that first issue, honestly. So yeah, probably like an 8.5 for me, I think. And you know, I mean, the art is, you know, which I didn't really mention too much. Godlewski is one of those artists who's like very, very house style, very dependable, and I think he handles some big moments here fairly well. Especially the big moment where Superman's defending the lantern construct with his cape, and then does the whole big like push everyone back, and you get this big full page spread. It looks very good, very, very nice big moment, very heroic. But you know, Godlewski's got that thing where like the faces are always just a little bit not to my taste. Like there's just a little bit of a, I don't even know what to call it or how to describe it, but just something just not quite to my eye that is pleasing. But I mean, I can't really dock it too much for that. So still 8.5. Like I had a good time. I'm excited to see where Johnson goes with what I assume is the end of his Superman run.